I just love your emails. gbviews@gbnews.uk. Matt Hancock has written in today's Mail on Sunday, criticising anti-vaxxers. Andrew has said, Mark, Matt Hancock is one to talk about spreading diseases. I wonder if he used PPE with his girlfriend, if you know what I mean. Andrew, brilliant stuff. Also, let's have a look. Dave says, Mark, how dare that evil man smear people who have genuine vaccine concerns, calling them anti-vaxxers when it's just hesitancy. He is the doggy-do on the base of my shoe and not the other way round. When are the vaccine hesitant camp going to be allowed a say on national TV or in a mainstream newspaper? The concerns will never go away until they are properly addressed. Well, Dave, I couldn't agree with you more. And that's something I believe very strongly, is that the vaccine must be personal choice, and you cannot have vaccine coercion by the back door, which is exactly what vaccine passports are. I'll get to more of your emails very shortly, but it's time now for The Clash, in which we tackle the big stories of the day from opposing points of view. Tonight, with Extinction Rebellion and the new group Insulate Britain blocking motorways, staging protests in our major cities, and attacking the headquarters of major banks. Are these protesters doing more harm than good and even setting back their own cause? To debate this, I'm delighted to welcome Liam Norton, an Insulate Britain activist, and Norman Brennan, retired Met police officer and director of the Law and Order Foundation. Liam, let me start with you. Why did you decide to form the group Insulate Britain?
Hi there, Mark.
Hi.
We decided to form the group because we're in a real crisis at the moment. So it's you don't have to listen to me. You can listen to Sir David King, who's the former chief scientific advisor to the British government. And he said back in February that what we do in the next 3 to 4 years will determine the future of humanity. And we're in absolute crisis at the moment in terms of getting ourselves out of this and rolling our sleeves up and getting on with the job. And, you know, at the moment, we're just trying to encourage leadership from our government to start that process. And Insulating Britain would give best value for money in terms of reducing emissions per pound spent. It's going to create hundreds of thousands of jobs, and it's going to stop tens of thousands of our elderly from dying each winter because they can't afford to heat their homes, which is, you know, it's quite frankly an embarrassment that in 2021 we're in that situation in this country of ours where we're saying it's okay for pensioners to freeze to death, basically. So that's the reason that we started the group up, among a few others.
Well, Liam, you're a very articulate guy. Why can't we just have grown-up conversations like this one? If you'd offered my producers an interview about this topic, I would have welcomed it. I don't need you to block motorways.
Well, you say that, Mark, but unfortunately, I don't think it's the reality. And the reality that we're in is that we've been asking politely in all kinds of different areas to the government in terms of writing letters, petitions. The government have known for 30 years that there's been a crisis in terms of the climate and in terms of fuel poverty. You know, groups have been trying to do the same thing, write letters, write petitions to try and express to the government that it's just unacceptable for tens of thousands of our elderly to be dying each winter. And, you know, we're talking about having a moral fibre, a community spirit, having respect for each other. And how can we have respect in communities when millions of people in our communities are living in fuel poverty? It's not possible. And, you know, there's certain things that are going on in our society that are just unacceptable. And so when you're in those positions, citizens have a proportionate right to demand that their government does better. That's all that we're asking for. We're just asking our government.
Liam, the way that those rights are expressed is democratically and through a free press. I don't think that many of my viewers will disagree that fuel poverty is a national scandal. And I think we probably all quite like the idea of insulating our homes better, of course, because we will have lower energy bills. And we know that at the moment they're going up. But it's all about how you do it. And what your group are doing is attacking and damaging the lives of innocent people, working people, trying to get to the office, pick up their kids from school, or possibly travel?
Well, we're actually talking about creating hundreds of thousands of meaningful jobs.
You haven't answered my question. You've turned into a politician already, Liam. I thought you were a real human being.
Go on then. So, look, what we're talking about is creating hundreds of thousands of jobs, okay? And what I've just said to you is the political process isn't working for ordinary people, Mark, okay? So, and if you look throughout history, the rights, many of the rights that we rightly are proud of, were the result of ordinary citizens protesting power. And the fact is, Mark, okay, that innocent people are we're talking about the destruction of our country here, and it's a really, really difficult thing emotionally to connect with, okay? But this is the situation that we're in 2021. We're looking at the destruction of our economy. We're looking at the destruction of our health service. We're looking at the destruction of the very fabric of our society within a few decades. And this isn't me saying it, okay? This is why Sir David King is saying what we do in the next 3 to 4 years will determine the future of humanity. This is the situation that we're in. I'm not here to express to you an ideology. I'm just here to express a reality, okay? And that's the reality that we're in.
I think it's an opinion. It's an opinion. No. We've got 3 or 4 years to sort this out. Norman Brennan, what's your view on this? Former top cop.
I'll tell you what my view is. It's quite simple. This is one demonstration too much for the British public. The time is come now for the silent majority to speak up. And last week, in their millions, they did that. The other contributor keeps talking us about a crisis, hundreds of thousands of jobs being created. We're all in a crisis. Many of us lost loved ones last year. Many of us lost businesses. Many of us got families that are in hospital, jobs that barely were saved. Some have just been created, and we go out and we work. The last thing the British public want is this group to patrol the streets and motorways in a fashion that is unlawful. It's an offence to willfully obstruct the highway. It's an offence to be on a motorway. And let me tell you this, when you keep talking about jobs, hundreds of thousands of jobs being created, perhaps I can tell the contributor as well, that there's over 1 million jobs at this moment in time for the British public to have. So I don't really think we've got too many problems with the British public wanting jobs. The time has come for people to realise that when they've got rights, there's responsibilities. Now, you keep talking about people don't listen, we ask politely. I'll give you a very quick example. If you assault a police officer now, even GBH them, you're unlikely to go to prison. The sentences are almost as disgusting as the crime itself. The Crown Prosecution Service, the courts let the police down. Now, we've asked politely for the courts to start doing the job that we expect them to do, and the public, because if the police can't protect themselves, how can they protect the public? My point is, you do not get the police in their tens of thousands blocking the roads, causing havoc, obstructing the public, committing a crime, causing ambulances a delay to a hospital, which could cost somebody their lives, or their job. Now, we've all got rights. And I really wish that I could go on the streets with all the homicide families that I meet, because I represent families that have been the victim of homicide, gun and knife crime. We ask politely. We write to our MPs. If there's a demonstration, we do it lawfully. When you do it unlawfully, you breach what is right and what is wrong. And my caveat to this is these demonstrators and protesters that are breaking the law are upsetting and inconvenience the law-abiding public going about their lawful business. And I believe this, and I'm not here to incite it, but I can see it happening, which is why I'm going to warn it. These demonstrators, I'm afraid, if the police can't do the job that they want to do, they did a very poor job at the beginning of last week. They've got their act together now. Many of us, and I'm one of the leading independent campaigners on behalf of police and victims and the public, I even condemned the police tactics. Now I think they're getting their act together. The point I'm making is this. If this group continue to upset, disrupt the law-abiding public, and in this case, motorists on motorways going about their business, I believe that motorists will start leaving their cars, grabbing hold of these protesters and pushing them to the side of the road. And under common law, if anybody believes a breach of the peace is being committed or a reoccurrence of a breach of the peace, a member of the public has the right to remove that person or move that person, and in a case where there is a breach of the police, arrest them. Now, what happens if suddenly protesters start receiving very serious injuries because the public are sick and tired of them? The public can only use proportionate and reasonable force, exactly the same as the police. But I can see this getting out of hand. And when it gets out of hand and motorists and the law-abiding public start challenging these protesters, who is it that the police will be arresting then?
Well, absolutely right. And there is public anger. Paul has emailed in. Can you tell that moron from Insulate Britain that I had my home insulated for free and it was available to everyone? Also, tell him I'll insulate his teeth with my fist if he gets in my way. Pretty spicy language from Paul. I can't say that I share that sentiment, but it does reflect public anger. And who could blame them, Leon, given the fact that it's the public who are really bearing the brunt of these protests, not the politicians?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with them. You know, like,
well, then don't do it.
Well, the problem is that you're not listening to what I'm saying at the start. And Norman looks really angry, and I really sympathise with him because
he knows the consequences.
Yeah, because like his sense of law and order and all these kinds of things are being violated. disrupted by what he sees Insulate Britain doing, and I really sympathise with him for that. But I just encourage him to start looking into what it is that I'm saying in terms of, to David King saying, what we do in the next 3 to 4 years. Start to look about what's going to happen into the next few decades in terms of that law and order, Norman, because it's going to start disappearing, mate. Okay, this is the point that I'm making, and I really want to have this debate with you. I know it's like we can argue and we could sort of insult each other, and that's not what I'm here to do, mate. Yeah. What I want to do is have this discussion with you. I know, please just hear me out, and we can be respectful here.
You've got plenty of time. I'm listening to you.
Yeah, cheers, mate. So I just want to express to you that what it is that we're talking about is that if this problem isn't dealt with in a few decades, that we're going to see the absolute destruction of our ordered society that we know. Okay, so these are the kinds of issues that where we agree on. We want to keep an orderly society, and you're talking about common law, and it's really interesting because we've got the right of necessity in this country, which means that it's legal to create disruption if it prevents greater disruption. And we saw that in the fire of London in the 1660s. They destroyed whole blocks of houses to stop the fire. Now, in an ordinary situation, it would be unacceptable to start demolishing people's houses. But there was an emergency, and so people just had to make that really tough decision to destroy people's houses.
How do you choose your cause? We live in a democracy, Liam. I need to remind you that we live in a democracy. Go on, make your point.
Mark, just to finish, Mark, and what we're seeing, Norman, is people, when juries are giving court cases and they're hearing for a week about the realities of this crisis, they're finding people not guilty against the judge's instructions because they can see that this right of necessity under common law is active, okay? And that's the point, really.
Can I respond?
Yeah.
Mark,
yeah.
You said your bit. First of all, I've not insulted you. I never insult people when I do interviews.
No, that's right.
You say that I look angry. Do you know what? I am bloody angry. I lost 3 people last year that were close to me, okay? I couldn't visit them. I couldn't see them. I lost a business last year. I'm fighting to keep another business going. Although I'm quite vocal on social media, what most people don't know is often when I went to bed, I didn't know if I could pay the bills the next day. I'm not alone, which is why I didn't whinge about it. But let me tell you, it's not just me that's angry. It's millions of law-abiding members of the public that are angry, that too have lost loved ones, that too have lost their jobs, all fighting to pay bills. We're in a mess. And when we start talking about respect, thank you, Mike. When we start talking about respect, moral fibre and community spirit, COVID isn't after World War I or II, but let's compare it as devil's advocate. When we come out of World War II, Britain was broken. So what did they do? They didn't start demonstrating on the streets, shouting and hollering about their houses not being insulated because many of them had lost roofs and windows in their houses. What they did, Mark, is they worked together. They reached out their hand. Anybody had a problem, they couldn't eat. People rallied and made sure that they could. And slowly but surely, we built up a Britain which was a great Britain. What I'm seeing with people like you, with all due respect, is that you're breaking that. You're dividing Britain. And not only that, after COVID, where so many of us have suffered, it is people like you that I'm afraid are going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. And the caveat to this part of what I'm saying is this. What happens if, and I'm not here to incite it, the public start attacking you legally by grabbing you and dragging you off the road and somebody tragically dies? Is that what you want? Do you want people to lose their jobs? Do you want people to be delayed by ambulances, go into hospital where they die or become paralysed like someone did last week? Last week, it appears there was a 4 multi-car accident. A 50-year-old woman was airlifted to hospital. Another woman was paralysed because she couldn't get to hospital on time. That is a result, a direct result of your unlawful action. So I'm saying to you, certainly as far as I'm concerned, and I believe millions of law-abiding public, enough is enough. Stay at home, do your campaigning lawfully because you're breaking the law. And it's because of people like you, Mark, with all due respect again, that the police crime court's sentencing bill is currently going through Parliament, where you will be forced lawfully not to do it. And what I think is a disgrace is that a number of your members that were arrested within hours were back on the scene. That will incite anger and hatred. And I believe unless we get our act together, and you're going to be part of the solution, because at the moment you're the problem, your group and your larger group could cause major disorder on the streets of Britain. Liam, is that what you want?
Liam, final thoughts?
Yeah, so on the accident, we're still waiting for Surrey Police to give an investigation into that.
Well, the bottom line is, Liam, let's not split hairs. It's quite clear that if you blockade a motorway, someone could die, that there could be a road traffic accident, that somebody could be stuck in an ambulance having a stroke. Do you want that on? Do you want that on your record?
Absolutely not. You know, this is.
Well, then you can't blockade motorways, Liam.
Well, what we're saying is the government could stop this immediately if they give us a meaningful statement. So could the government. And what we're saying is that tens of thousands of our elderly are dying in each winter. Where's the anger for them, Mark?
Well, we have a political opposition.
If I remember rightly, the government gives them grants.
We also have a democratic process. Liam, how do you prioritise what is an important cause? We're all concerned about the environment, about climate change, but should we protest, should we blockade motorways about child poverty or about knife crime? There are so many good causes that you could disrupt democracy to support, but that's not how this country works. It is a democratic process involved in elections and free speech.
Mark.
I'll make an invitation to you. If you stop these blockades, I will welcome you on my show regularly to discuss the environment. How about that? Can we do a deal? Stop the protests right now and just go on the media and express your views peacefully.
We just wanted to say as well that I didn't get the chance, that we feel terrible for anything that may happen during this protest.
Well, don't do it then.
Well, yeah, but we want to acknowledge, but where's the anger for the tens of thousands of people that are dying in the winter because they can't afford to heat their homes? We'd just like to acknowledge that families, tens of thousands of them, are losing loved ones because they can't afford to heat their home. And we accept the anger, But all we're saying is, where's the anger for them? And I'd just like to, again, encourage you, Norman, just to say that we are probably a lot more aligned than you think in terms of what we want for this country. And you mentioned the Second World War, okay? And that's the kind of spirit that we want to see in terms of really trying to get ourselves out of this mess that we find ourselves in. And we really think
Mark,
that this plan,
Mark.
yeah, Norman,
but if you both finish your points, last point, Liam, and then last point, Norman. Go on, Liam.
Well, look, all I'm saying is that, you know, before the Second World War, in 1937, do you know how many MPs supported Churchill before the Nazis? How many? There was
a minority. Yeah.
6 MPs. And we're in the minority now in terms of trying to express to the British people that there is a crisis out there in the same way that Churchill was back in 1937. He was banging on about Hitler and nobody would listen to him. And all I'm trying to express to the people watching this and to you, Norman, and you, Mark, is that we're in a similar position now. There is this crisis heading our way, and nobody wants to face up to it because it's really emotionally challenging.
I'm under big pressure from Bethany to crack on with our next item, but can I just ask you this really briefly, and I will, I'm going to come back to you finally at the end, Norman, but this very important final thought, Liam, which is you can obviously have your views about fuel poverty and about insulating the country. As I've said, I don't think most people have a problem with that. But the emails that are coming in, my laptop has just melted because people are so angry about your methods. And the whole point is, and the point about this clash topic tonight, is that notwithstanding the kind of moral position that you've taken, people are angry at your methods and you risk losing public support. You could argue it's gone already. And if that happens, you've failed.
Well, what we see in history is that certain groups don't have the support of the public. You see that throughout history. And what we're saying to the government is we're asking the government to they could finish this tomorrow. There would be nobody on the motorways next week. And just so that you know, there are people planning to go out next week. And the government could stop this immediately if they gave us a meaningful statement that they're going to get on with the job.
Norman, this sounds to me like low-level terrorism.
Well, that's exactly what it is. And let me just be absolutely blunt and straight with you. For 42 years, I've been involved in law and order. For the last 30 years, I've advised the public. I have one of the most unique positions in Britain because I represent the police, victims of crime, and the public. I have a passion about all three. If I think one is acting wrong or one needs help or support or guidance or advice, I tell them that. Mark, let me leave you with this thought. I'm a law-abiding member of the public, just like millions of other people. At this moment in time, another member very close to me is very ill. I don't know when I'm going to get the call to go and see her. If I get that call and one of you are on that motorway, because I'll have to use the M25 or any other motorway, this is not a threat, it's a promise, and there are no police about to remove you out of the way so I can get to that location to hold that person's hand for the last minute. I promise you this, I will lawfully and legally remove anybody in my way. And I will ask other members of the public to join me as a group. That's not what I want, and I cannot believe I'm saying it. You asked if I'm angry. Yes, I am. I've told you all the reasons why. And Mark, 2/3 of the British people last week were not supporting you. You are going to lose even more support. And I'll leave you with this thought to take back to your group. Is what you want what I've just suggested? Because if it is, you are going to be challenging millions and millions of people, and your cause will be in the gutter.
Liam Norton, the offer stands here on GB News and on Tonight Live. I will give you a regular slot on my show if you stop the protests, if you stop blockading motorways, which risks lives and livelihoods. I'm deeply grateful to both of you for your time. Liam, thanks very much for expressing your view. Liam Norton is an Insulate Britain activist, and Norman Brennan, a retired Met Police officer and director of the Law and Order Foundation. Over to you, folks. gbviews@gbnews.uk. At 10 o'clock, we're going to talk free speech. The brilliant Toby Young, journalist, broadcaster, disruptor, if you like. Get your emails into him now. gbviews@gbnews.uk. Tweet us using the handle @gbnews.